Our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human
on the point of order.
Honorable
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
your host, Anita Obari. Today on Society Watch, we will be discussing the ASU strike and also set Tuesday, Wednesday as national days of protest over lingering strike. And interreligious harmony, Muslim leaders, Kaduna monarchs worship with Christians on Sunday in church. And on 2023 census, questionnaire to contain no questions on religion, ethnicity, says NPC. When we return from this break.
NTU legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN icons showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 1777. ATN icons celebrating the giants of our time.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring
In case you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And NLC sets Tuesday and Wednesday as national days of protest over lingering strike. Now, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has earmarked July 26th and 27th as national days of protest across the country to compel the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, to resolve their lingering issues and suspend the prolonged strike. Recall that the NLC had given the federal government a 21-day ultimatum to resolve the lingering issues. The ultimatum, however, elapsed without tangible moves to end the strike. Now, following the expiration of the ultimatum, the NLC, in a statement issued by its president, Ayuba Waba, said the solidarity protests would take place in all the 36 states and the FCT. The statement reads, in line with the decision of the National Executive Council NEC meeting of the Nigerian Labour Congress held on 30th of June 2022, we have scheduled the national days of protest to get our children back to school and support our unions in Nigerians public universities fighting for quality education. The dates of the program is Tuesday 26 July 2022 and Wednesday 27th July 2022. And the venue, ASU and other unions are demanding funding, revitalization of universities, and allowances, and other demands bordering on their arrears. And now the question is, will these protests make any difference? Will the government listen to the labor unions, at least, if not for the sake of ASU, for the sake of the Nigerian Labour Congress? Over the years, it has proven to show that the government hasn't really paid attention to the demands of ASU. Well, for some obvious reasons that even though we do not have all the details from the government, but we sure know that there's been a whole lot of controversy as to ASU's demands and the federal government trying to meet their needs. But then the fact is that there are students who should be in school. There are people who should be going about their academic activities, trying to meet up the set target for themselves, and they've been at home. I mean, this is about 5 months plus since the strike, and NLC had given the federal government a 21-day ultimatum to meet the demands of ASU, try to resolve so that the students can go back to school, and nothing happened within this 21 days. is there any hope that the two-day protest is going to create any change? You know, most people believe that the only language the government understands is a strike or a protest. But as it is, if that is true, then the government should have met the demands of ASU long before now. So we wouldn't have been here in the first place. But going on this national protest, I mean, this is going to be like shutting down every activities of the labor union for the 2 days that they'll be embarking on this protest. Is this going to move the government to do something? We really need to know, because at this point, we're just trying all options to ensure that at least this situation, this continuous and lingering strike, is settled once and for all, or at least being able to be managed so that people can go back to school for now. And they've been at home for too long. It's not too good for them to be at home for this long. It tells on the society, you know, being idle, say an idle man is the devil's workshop. So being idle gives them this leverage of conceiving evil thoughts, meeting people they ordinarily wouldn't have met, and engaging in activities that might be become a vice in the society. And so if the government looks into this, it would really be a win-win situation, because the labor union will realize, oh, actually our protest paid off. But is this really going to work? Now, a couple of days ago, the president had said enough is enough. And one was ordinarily expecting that by now we should have seen some strategies, some directives, and some actions that would back up that statement to show that actually the president has had enough and then he wants a change in the system. But there has been nothing like that. And from the look of things, ASU is bent on achieving. You can actually know that, okay, for our struggle, this is what we have. But absolutely, it's very dicey. We cannot say, because we cannot say what the government is going to do in reaction to this protest. But we just do hope that it is actually going to leave a mark, and probably, as intended, it is going to push them to action. But then again, let's look at the fact that over the years, ASU has been on these in-season strikes demanding for funding of the public schools. And I mean, this is an act that gives the government some leverage to support children's education, support students' education in the country. I mean, when the win awards, the glory is for the nation and not just for the institutions. These are government-owned institutions, and if we look at it, somehow private institutions are beginning to grow so fast, and one would be tempted to ask, will they take over the scene? Because if we keep having straight in 4 years or 5 years, you've been delayed for about 6 or 7 years, and then the next option that comes to you is looking for more like a shortcut, a channel through which your set time will be it. If it's meant to be 4 years, then it's going to be 4 years. And then it's either you have the money and can afford going outside of the country, or you want to go to a private school to avoid the strikes and the unnecessary breaks in the calendar. And this is not going to tell too well on the public institutions. This is not going to tell too well on the schools and the system generally, because if at the end of the day we have a reduced number of students enrolling in public schools because of the fear of an elongated academic calendar as a result of strikes and unnecessary breaks in the system, then somehow it's also going to affect the government. So while the lecturers are going to be affected, the government we are trying to build, we are the giants of Africa, and if our institutions, academic institutions of higher learning, are not in good conditions, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Again, one of the agitations, one of the arguments from the government has been that ASU is demanding for a platform through which it's a single lecturer can have multiple pays, on the grounds that they'll probably have to go to other universities more like on secondment and on as visiting lecturers, and the government is trying to look for ways to cut this. But then let's look at it again. If there are no much hands in these institutions, and then they have, say, a professor, for instance, from some other institutions, and you bring him in as a visiting lecturer, he works, then he demands his pay. Now, if the government is trying to say there should be no such thing anymore, I mean, I think that's an express thing, and then it would be debated upon, not as it is like when they're trying to bring the IPPIS, and then they are even claiming that the IPPIS is either they are underpaid on the system or they are not even paid at all, and some names are omitted, and a whole lot of other issues surrounding it. And bringing up the youth tax. And the government on its own has said, we are not promising you that we are going to adopt a new platform. So where does that leave everybody? Where does that leave us? Where does that leave the other unions? Where does that leave the government? How long can the strike go on? How long can the students be at home? There's been a whole lot of arguments. The part of the reasons that criminality has increased in the country is because of the fact that most students are at home. In fact, some people argued strongly that during the NSAS protest, it was inspired and strengthened by the fact that students were on schools were on strikes and students were in their houses, and so they had so much time to go about activities that, well, could cause some sort of tension in the society. But the truth is, of course, when things are not going right, when people that should be in school are not in school, they always look for one way or the other to keep themselves busy. And that is what the government should consider. One would expect that by now we wouldn't be having any more elongated strikes in our public institutions, but it's still the same. Over and over again, it's still the same. So we actually appreciate this move from the NLC. One, it shows solidarity with a sister body. It shows solidarity. ASU is actually one of them, and they're more like, oh, we feel your pain, we understand how this is, okay, we are going to support you, even though we are not going to strike with you, but let's just embark on this protest, nationwide protest, to see what the government would do. And it would be very nice if this is going to get to the government and they come up with policies, they come up with strategies, they come up with ideas that would actually bring solution, lasting solution actually today. So we don't wake up next year and we're probably expecting another strike, or in 2 years to come we're expecting another strike. There will be a strategy in place. Now, even if this government leaves office, the next government is also going to continue, and then we have academic calendars running as planned, not running on a truncated basis and running on an elongated basis. It's really, really not too good for the system. And then also, we just hope that this again shows that the NLC is trying to express their grievances. They're trying to express the fact that, hey, we have students, we have children in these schools, and we are directly or indirectly affected. Because if you do not have a child in any of those public institutions, you have a relative, you have a brother, you have a sister, a cousin, or so. And so they are directly or indirectly affected. Someone said sometime that how many of the civil servants can actually afford to send their children to private universities, considering the cost? How many of them can actually afford to send their children to institutions outside the country, considering the cost? And so their children are in public schools in the country. So this gives them that feeling that not just empathy this time around, they are bearing the brunt of the strike. And so they've come out to express, or rather they are coming out to express the fact that, hey, this is affecting us. We want our children back to school. I mean, we are looking for ways that we can have a better society, and if going to be somewhat deferred, because it won't be achieved in the shortest of times. We can't ascertain what would happen if this lingers. Elections are coming up, and this is no good sign, because there's been a whole lot of arguments that politicians have a way of making use of people who aren't very busy, those who are just idle, to perpetuate some ills when it comes to elections. And so if the students are at home, I think at home it gives these politicians the leverage to do that. But if they are in schools, then they are going to be very busy with academic work and cannot even have the time to want to engage in some vices that would affect not just their person, their families, and the society in general. Well, we'll just go on a short break right now, and when we come back, we'll continue with the conversations.
Meet the people making the difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
The people, the candidates, the party, the campaigns. What really makes an election here? Enough of the rhetorics. It's time for issue-based politics. 2023 elections. Who are the candidates? What do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2023 elections on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes, DTH, channel 194, or ATN Live on Google Play Store and all our social media platforms. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Elections 2023 from Mondays to Fridays at 8 p.m. Election 2023. We the people have a stake.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human trafficker.
Honorable on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. Before we went on that break, we were talking about the NLC solidarity protests scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday. And I've just been thinking, like I asked even before we went for the break. Now, they gave a 21-day ultimatum and nothing happened. Now, they've also prepared to go for solidarity protests from tomorrow to Wednesday. Are we sure anything is going to happen? One was also expecting that, given the fact that the president said enough is enough, you know, he would start reeling out some strategies, some moves and some actions that would show that, okay, actually, the president is making moves to bring an end to the lingering strike. But up till now, we haven't seen anything of that. Well, we have someone here that is going to be discussing these issues with us. He is a public affairs analyst, Garuba Usman Gero. So you're welcome to the show.
Good to have you.
Yeah, so like I was saying, a 21-day ultimatum did not make any move. It didn't make any impact. The government didn't respond as anticipated. What hopes do we have that this two-day protest is going to cause a change?
Actually, thank you for inviting me to the station to talk about this very important issue. We know it doesn't matter the number of times people have made some submissions, have made some, registered their grievances, registered their anger concerning how they are being governed in the country. Now, whether or not there has been maybe like warning a strike on all those things, and then they have been given maybe NLC also drawing the attention of the government, that they were going on that solidarity, protest. Actually, in a democracy, that is one of those things that people can do to maybe press forward their demands. For instance, as it is now, you know, things are really very rough. They must have to continue NLC whether or not the government submit to their requests or demands. If they don't, they have to continue, because I mean, they can't quit halfway. They just have to continue, whether or not. But I feel they just have to respond, because there's a pressure. There has to be pressure on the government, because this is a very critical, this is a very important sector of the society. And if we allow education sector to really suffer the kind of neglect we are actually experiencing, or we have been experiencing for ages, I mean, that means the future is actually quite doomed for, will spell doom for those that will come later.
So you're actually saying we need to keep pressing and pushing more.
They have to consistently put that pressure. The pressure has to be double to ensure that, I mean, the government government respond to some of these issues and address the issues the way it's supposed to be.
Now, about a week ago, Beatrice Itubo, the Labour chairperson here in River State, did say that the reason these politicians are really not paying attention to the public schools is because their children are not in these schools. And then if you look at it, most of our top politicians don't have their children in the schools. And so one would ordinarily expect that they really don't understand what this label people are going to say, or what us is going to say, or what the students are actually feeling. And then now, when you really say they are working.
I said I condemn the whole thing. Actually, in the first place, we have no reason why we should be where we are today. In the first place, we have no reason whatsoever for us to be where we are today. But just like I said sometimes back, I was having a conversation somewhere. I was telling somebody, actually, Nigeria as it is now, almost every sector of the Nigerian economy and Nigerian society is actually deficient, is suffering from one kind of deficiency to another. The health sector is almost, if you like, you can say basic primary health care. These things are, are suffering. A lot of places you go in the rural areas, they don't have access to some of these simple things that should really help people to maybe to just live their life. So it's, for me, it's very sad and it's very unfortunate. And then I feel we must have to continue to see what we can do to really get this thing out of, solve this problem.
So as it is right now, would you say the reason strike has lingered is because the federal government did not have the wherewithal to meet the demands of ASU, or they have some other reasons that we cannot tell that has made them not to?
Well, you see, if we have been following the narratives, you know, some of them, if we judge by what they are saying, we know that one, even like the other day, the president was talking about, he was begging practically the ASU guys should come back and then call up. But on a very serious note, the issue is that as it is now, to be candid with you, I have a little idea of the economy is really in bad shape. So all I'm saying is that I'm quite sure government must necessarily listen to these guys and then see how we can end this strike. But then another thing is that now to end the strike, what ASU is demanding for, it may look actually something little, but then do we really actually have those resources at the moment now to really help? Because the issue is that we have bastardized government and governance. The way we have been running, our expenditure, our cost of governance is too high. And unless and until we change some of those things, I tell you, we'll be running into this kind of battle, because when there is a problem like this, gladly I know everybody will want this strike to be over. So it's about it should be like a kind of win-win situation. ASU should actually move a little, it should bend a little, and then federal government should really come out and do something. If not, I see very serious danger ahead of us, because at a particular point, the youth of this country and then every well-meaning Nigerian will actually rise up and support the cause of maybe any kind of pressure that will be mounted on the government to ensure that these guys are back. Because I tell you, as it is now, the level of even the insecurity, restiveness we have, you can't isolate, you can't actually maybe distance those things completely from the prolonged strike that we have been having. So as far as I'm concerned, if the government should really do something, and then the ASU should also listen, because you are talking about negotiation. In negotiation, you don't say you must get 100%. 100% is something else. But I support Labour. Labour has to come out and just do it, and then see what they can do. And then, unfortunately, also NANS, the NANS of those days is no longer the NANS of today is not the NANS of those days, because they have almost been silenced.
Well, they've carried out a whole lot of protests, and to no avail.
I tell you this, the protest they have done is not enough.
Okay.
Let me be very candid with you. But I know, because of so many security challenges we have as today, even the issue of even giving them permission, or maybe, is their right actually for them to come out on the street. There are a lot of things. The police, and they have a way of actually penetrating through the ranks of all those NANS guys to see how, by the time they oiled some of their, I'm not saying that they have done that, but I tell you, they can use all sorts of strategies that they use in winning election to also see how they can suppress any move that will help to challenge the status quo. I tell you that.
All right, we just do hope that this is going to change a whole lot very soon. Let's just move away from that and look at our next issue. Now, it has to do with, it's very laughable because of the timing of this situation. Inter-religious harmony. Muslim leaders, Cardinal monarchs worship with Christians in church. Ahead of the 2023 general election, some Muslim leaders and traditional rulers in Kaduna State have commenced moves to strengthen inter-religious harmony by joining worshippers at the Evangelical Church Winning All, Ekwa Gospel Church, Lemu Road, Kaduna on Sunday. Now, the chairman, Community Relation Committee of the church, Senator Haruna Azizego, said the invitation extended to Muslims within their host community to worship with them was born out of love to sustain religious coexistence. The attendance was at the instance of the church in her efforts at strengthening religious harmony and peaceful coexistence among all, regardless of religious differences. Some of the Muslims who attended the church service were Nigerians living within and around the community where the church is located, he said. Now, traditional rulers who attended the Sunday service were the district head of Banawa, Alaji Kabiru Zubairu, the Wakilin Shehu Bonu, His Royal Highness Bata Madaki Auta, and Sakin Duse Ahaji Shuaibu Balarewa Abdullahi, among others. Now, among the Muslim leaders who were in the church and spoke on peaceful and religious coexistence were Sheikh Dahiru Abdullahi, Sheikh Dr. Hamisu Yao, and Sheikh Shehu Ayotola. Now, you cannot be said to be a good Muslim if you don't like your Christian neighbors and vice versa. We should join hands and bring back the good old days where Christians relate with Muslims as brothers and vice versa. Muslims and Christians are twins. Christianity and Islam has not changed, but Christians and Muslims have changed, and people have succeeded to divide the two religions for their selfish gains. We must return to olden days where Christians and Muslims see each other as brothers, they said. Sheikh Dr. Yao, the executive secretary of Sultan Bello Mosque, said that the devil is our common problem, and we must all unite to fight the devil. Humanity should be respected above religion, and we should accept each other the way we are. We must not allow politicians to use our heads. We must unite together as one and allow politicians to do their thing, he said. While preaching, Mr. Zach Bongo said lack of fellowship is the cause of most crises and called on Christians and Muslims to focus on what binds them together and not what separates them. Now, I think this is a very good move. It's a very good move. But the problem is these are leaders who are soliciting for peace and religious harmony. But how can they translate this move, this peace teachings, into the minds of the youth? Because I think that's where the problem really lies.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate the organizers of that particular program. The North may really be wondering, but for me, it's not much of a news, because sometimes back, for instance, especially the Shiites, you know, they have been joining Christians sometimes during Easter and during Christmas to celebrate with them. Particularly, I give you examples, particularly in Zaria. And then when every year they normally do there is this walk they normally do, sometimes where they gather an annual program. You see some of them traveling all the way from Kano on foot and all those things. But along the road, I can tell you, for instance, between Kano and Zaria, there is a particular church, I know it's a Catholic church there, where some of these Muslim adherents, as they are moving at a particular point, that place, they have been using it as a place where they can have a rest and then continue. And when they get there, the priest there, actually, people will even begin to say the Muslim ticketing just is on board, and I think that's the intent now. And even people have this perception that it's even part of an attempt to actually also get into the ranks of the church and then see how they can really to pacify the church and pacify the Christians, so that they can just douse down the tension already existing, and therefore to pave way for having their way. I mean, maybe the Muslim ticket, and then to win the support for the candidate of the APC. So this is part of what people also are saying. So, but largely, I tell you, that kind of gesture, I think it's a very good one. We must commend them for that. And I tell you, there are a lot of some of these things that happen. For instance, I give you an example. There is a village in Kano that I know called Tudumbaze. Tudumbaze is in Kuru local government area. In that particular village, I tell you, it's just the beauty in it is that at a particular point, the consciousness of the people between maybe Christians and Muslims was very wide. But today, the margin is gradually getting narrow. And I tell you this, as it is now in that particular village, I happen to be in that village. I mean, I happen to visit that village, and you will see the Muslims. They send their kids to school. I mean, in a school that established by the Christian community, and that Christian community, the extension of those classes is even the church, and you see the children of the Muslim kids going right inside the church, and they are learning. So for me, I feel that it's a very good thing, and we must continue to do that. But the issue is that we must also match action. You understand what the words. So it's not just about saying it and then we just come, we call the attention of the media, they cover, and then they say, hey, we do that. It goes more than that, because I tell you, there are a lot of things that have to really come to table if we must address some of these issues that we have today.
They said that in the olden days that Christians and Muslims dwelt together as brothers, but that politicians came in to divide them. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, you see, let me be very sincere with you. I agree with him. It's not just about those days. Even today, actually, it happens, because in the north, you see a lot of, in a family, you find some people that are Christians, some are Muslims, and all those things, and they have been coexisting. But the danger is that sometimes some of the problem that normally arises is that, one, sometimes you discover that those oneness should exist, or we are brothers and sisters. Sometimes you see people beginning to become fanatics, and then they actually instill in them that kind of feeling that, oh man, this guy is an Arabs are just the greatest threat to some of these our moves towards becoming one and united, because they are opinion molders, they are opinion makers. Sometimes they have a lot of followers, if they have a lot of influence on them, and when they tell them that this is what we should live like this, even with the example they give, it will help to, you don't even need to say love your neighbor, love the way you maybe you distribute the resources. For instance, I give you an example. If there is a rep member, of course it's not their basic within your constituency. So these are some of the things. So I tell you, it's a very good thing. But sincerely, the politicians, they have a great role, and they are the ones that really, anytime there is election, they will start bringing all these religious issues. I remember sometimes before the primaries, even Yemi Osibanjo, and I even want to believe that they are that kind of what the Redeem did, misinterpreted that and misconceived it, and the conception was that, oh man, the attempt now is to see how they can mobilize people to support Osibanjo.
However, Islamic religion has been divided into sects, while Christianity has not. The objective, as alleged, is to show that Muslims are small in the country. The fabricated message urged Muslims in Nigeria to see the population census as a tool to suppress them and their faith through the reduction of their numerical strength, and to resist any attempts to divide the religion of Islam by refusing to answer any question on religion. For the avoidance of doubt, the 2023 census and the ongoing trial census, like previous censuses of the 1991, and 2006, have no questions on religion and ethnicity. These decisions was reached after extensive consultations with stakeholders, taking into consideration the sensitive nature of these two issues in Nigeria. Religion and ethnicity unarguably are important indices in the demographics of any country. Now let's look at, you talked about divisions on these lines of religion, and then NPC is saying that, like they did in 1991 and in 2006, that there will be no provisions for questions bordering on religion and ethnicity. Do you think if we adopt these gestures, and because even when you're trying to fill a form, say for a job, for schools and all that, you have provisions for religion and ethnicity, do you think this division is partly influenced by that?
Okay, as a matter of fact, Nigeria is the way we are now in a sorry state. There is so much mutual suspicion between ethnic groups, between religious groups. But the most dangerous one is even religious.
Yeah.